Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and it is a beautiful new moon in the sign of Cancer. So the new moon is going to be at 18. You see here, let me get my marker so we can see it properly. So you can see here that we've got a new moon at 18 degrees and 1, and you can see that they're conjunct. And at that time, we've also got this beautiful fire trine going on. And, this is a beautiful connection from the South Node, and this is going to Venus. And then Venus also is trining to Chiron. And then we've also got the Chiron trining to the South Node. So this is quite beautiful, and what we can see here, the energy of a trine. And we've also got these trines going on from Pluto, actually that's Lilith, which I won't go into today, but I'm just going to run through what we've got going on here. So we know that it's a new moon, and it's going to be July the 10th in the UK, but and that will be at this time we've got here, which is at 2:15 a.m. -1, it says. So 2 o'clock around 2 o'clock in the morning in the UK time, from what I recall. I hope I've got my time right here, but I know that the degrees are right, the chart is right. In the USA, your new moon is going to be happening on the 9th in the evening, and because we've got 5 hours ahead in the UK. So the moon in Cancer is where our feeling for safety is related to the home, to family, and to related activities that are around the home, like our gardening and our cooking. And it's also where we can have emotional fluctuations, and where we can, when we if we're having emotional issues, we'd be better off just accepting our emotions so that we're not struggling and fighting with them. We don't want to be thinking too much, but we could, because if we overthink things, and particularly with what's going on in the world, then we can feel, we can forget what to be grateful for. So this is very much about, home and family orientation. And family doesn't have to mean, birth family. It can mean the family that you've created for yourself in your life. It's also where we want to, we might have some, rich manifestations emotionally, and where we can create a sense of belonging in the world. So we do know that the full moon affects 2 weeks ahead, but the new moon affects from the new moon until the next new moon. So for the month, wherever this falls for you, you would be looking in the house that it's in for you. So I'll show you how to do that on my own chart in a moment. So if we have the transiting moon in the 4th house, for instance, which is the same as Cancer, then basically the sign of Cancer, it's, where we feel at home. And sometimes the home for some of us is our inner home, our inner world. And it can be where we want to make things more beautiful for ourselves, and also where we want to focus on our personal relationships and personal affairs, and also, with loved ones. And many of us have loved ones, friends and such like. So, and also where we'll hopefully have more empathy and understanding, and that we can feel safe and secure. So if we look at the sign of Cancer, let's run through, the moon and the sun and the moon are in the sign of Cancer as this takes place. So what, the key words that we would look at, the archetype, the moon, water, emotion, it's to do with our security, family, childhood environment, the womb, the ego, children. We've also got the clan and our ancestors, protection, nurturing. It's the inner world. It's our self-image. It's where we can feel touchy. It's subjective also. And it's also the gender roles. It's about our needs. And also it can be where, about neglect as well. It's about our roots and our home. So hopefully that helps you figure that one. And then we've got the sun conjunct the moon. This is always with a new moon. It's always conjunct. When it's a full moon, then the moon is opposite, exactly opposite. If you don't know that, if you don't know astrology, the sun is sextile to Uranus. So the sun is sextiling to Uranus over here. You can see that. And then we've also got the sun is trine to Neptune. This is a really quite lovely, chart actually. The sun is trine to Neptune. The sun is in opposition with Pluto, and this can make us stubborn and also you know, where we're trying to persuade others and tell them, you know, what we need to do and, you know, being forceful. But we can influence others sometimes with this, with the sun in an opposition. You can see it's moving on in, because when it gets to 25 degrees within the next week or so, if we go 18 degrees, 19, 20, 21, 22, we're trying out 25, at 7 days, it's going to be touching on in there. So we know it's moving on and it's applying. It's 7 degrees away. The moon is also sextile to Uranus. So the moon is also sextile to Uranus, as so is the sun. And then the moon and the sun are trying to Neptune. It's lovely. And moon is also, well, you know, it's going to be moving into opposing Pluto as well. But the moon moves quite quickly. The moon takes 28 days around the chart. And then we got Mercury is trying to Jupiter. And this is about, you know, this can bring optimism and kindness and openness. And it's to do with our philosophy as well. And, you know, it's where we want to, you don't really want to stay in one place too long, but we're on lockdown. So that's where we're at the moment. The Mercury square Neptune is our difficult one at the moment. If you look at, you can see Neptune here, and Mercury's moving off now, which is good. It's separating by 4 degrees, but this can, you know, this has complicated our practical life. Maybe over the last week, you might have noticed that. And this is, you know, because it's communication. So there's lots of different communications moving around and backwards and forwards, and we're not certain what's taking place as we come out in lockdown, particularly in the United Kingdom, and different countries are up to different things. And we can get into trouble or we can deceive ourselves with the Mercury square Neptune. You might know that if you've got that in your chart. For me, I have, in my chart, I have Mercury in opposition to Neptune in my birth chart, but the square is a bit different. It's a different type of energy. It can be a fantasy world, and it can also mean that we don't have a good short-term memory. So if you've been struggling with, you know, remembering things in the last week and trying to figure things out, then you will know why. And then Venus is conjunct to Mars, and we will see, I'm going to show you, this is going to move over Mars in the next day or so. And this is called a balsamic phase, which is, you know, it's a spiritual, in the phases are quite, you know, spiritual. I will do a video on those one time because I'm still learning. And then we got, so the Venus conjunct Mars, Venus is opposing Saturn. Venus opposing Saturn, you know, can bring a bit of restriction with our inner needs as well. So we might feel, whilst the moon's quite lovely, we can feel this bit of push-pull going on in our emotionally being restricted, and then our inner needs, you know, trying to meet those. If we look at Venus opposing Saturn, and then it's where we can feel hesitant, and the restraints, you know, that we might feel, and fears of, you know, loss as well. We might be fearing, you know, loss of things as well with that, because it's about our needs, our inner needs, and this is about restriction. And then we've got Mars is, you know, the Mars is also opposing Saturn, which is moving off now as well, which is quite good. But Venus is moving on. Venus is separating as well from Saturn. So we can see here, Saturn up there. And then what else can I tell you? Mars square Uranus. This is also, we can make us irresponsible as well and a bit eccentric. And Saturn square Uranus is all going on all year. It's separating. I'll show you actually this for a moment, that Saturn is retrograde and Uranus will go retrograde later in the year. But if we go weeks ahead, I'm just going to show you, if you look at 11 degrees, you can see that this is actually going retrograde. So if we go a week ahead and another week, it's down 10 degrees, 1, 2, and then it's 8 degrees and another 2 weeks. And then it goes back to 6 degrees. I'm not going to go all the way back, but when it gets back to 6 degrees, then it's going to go forward again, and then it will hit the square again with Uranus. So we'll go forward again to, whoops, Daisy, we went backwards. Should I go backwards or forwards? Here you go. This is backwards. I think I went forwards there. That's right. I went forwards to show you that it's going retrograde. That's what I did. And thank you, Mercury and Neptune. So then we have Saturn square Uranus going on all year, and it's responsible, you know, for, it can make things feel chaotic because we want to break free of limitations. So if I go back to today, which is the 9th of July, 10th, there you go. This is the 10th here because, that's right, because I'm showing you the UK chart, but it's the 9th of July for you guys in the USA. And then Neptune sextile to Pluto is harmonious. So Neptune sextile to Pluto, that's slow moving, that's also enhances peace building and helps us to transform on a global scale, which is really good for us. The trine, which is very beautiful, I don't know how long it's holding in that trine. We can have a look at that as well. I'll go back by, I'll take it days and see how long that's been in place, which is interesting. So you see the trine here. If I go back by days, what we're looking for is this trine. It's a fire trine. So a fire trine is what gives us inspiration. It gives us bold creativity, enthusiasm, pride, and sometimes it can make us self-absorbed. So different trines, you know, if it's a water trine, grand earth trine, they represent different things, different energies. And it's where 3 planets are working together, and sometimes more if there's a conjunction, as you can see here. And there's a conjunction with asteroid Lilith to Chiron as well. So asteroid Lilith is the shadow work that we do. You know, if we go back to the Garden of Eden, she threw off the patriarchal rule. She wasn't having anything to do with it. And then she was made into a really wicked, bad person. And but she wasn't a bad person. She wanted her freedom. So interesting that Chiron is there because it's throwing something off. And we've also got Pluto retrograde. So we've got a lot of retrogrades. If I go backwards and see where that trine moves off. So we're looking at this. How long has that trine been there? There you go. It's been going for a while. So it's been going on for a while. So if we go forward again to the 10th of July here, and now you've got the trine. So how long is that in place for if we go forward? And then it's gone. So that's interesting. 11th of July, it's gone, but we still got the trines to Chiron up here and the trine to the South Node, which is beautiful. So I think that what I'm going to show you now is my chart so you can understand how to look at your own chart. And we have, let me share, new share, and I come over to my chart. So this is my chart. So the moon is going to be here in my 8th house. For me, it's happening in my 8th house. So you would look, where is this? If you look at your chart, you'd go to astro.com here, and you would get your own chart and you put in your date, time, place. You need your time in order to get the rising sign. So you can see I'm Scorpio rising. So I know that the moon and the sun, this new moon at 18 degrees is falling on my Lucifer. Lucifer can sound scary, but Lucifer is the archetype of the bringer of light. And this is actually doing other things for me. So what we would look at then is not just where it's falling, the house it's falling in. I'll give you an example. So I would look at my chart and I say, okay, it's falling in my 8th house. And I'd say, what does that mean to me? So then for me, this for the month ahead, this is the area of intimacy, deep connections. It's about endings and beginnings. It's birth, death, and regeneration. And it's both physical and symbolic. It's about power struggles, possibly, and shared resources, possibly, and financial matters that include others. That's very true for me at this time. And the focus is on fully embracing others and ourselves. So fully embracing ourselves, connecting on very deep feeling levels. And it's tapping into, you know, it's psychology. The 8th house is actually Scorpio. So the 8th house, it's tapping way below the surface. And it's time to release habits and behaviors and situations that no longer empower us, so we can fully connect to our passion. So I've been looking at my habits in the last couple of weeks because, you know, that sun moving through my 8th house is going to be there for me. You can see the interception there. It's going to be in my 8th house, even though it moves into Leo. It's going to be in my 8th house until I think the 4th of August. So I know what I'm dealing with. Now, if we look at my chart then, and we say the moon, and we know that the new moon is here. So what is that doing for me? So that new moon is sextile, and the sun is sextile to my Pluto. There's a nice sextile for me here, which is great. And it's also trining to my Neptune. So it's trining to my Neptune here, which is also very beautiful for me. And then we know what areas of what areas of life for me they're happening in. It's happening in the 12th house, behind closed doors, spirituality, but it's also happening in my 8th house, which is shared resources, etc. And then it's squaring my Venus. So this may be me looking at love matters. It's an absolute square there. My inner needs, and is something suitable to me? Is it okay with me, or is it not okay with me? My inner needs. And it's also semi-sextile to my moon, which is lovely. So you can see 30 degrees to my moon. So this is quite a beautiful moon for me that's going on. And we know the moon is in my 7th house. So this is, the sextile, it's about my relationships, and it's the new moon is about planting seeds. It's a new fresh start, a new beginning that will come to fruition over time. So do get your own chart, and then you can dig in and really understand what this means. And then you can look ahead and sort of, begin to evolve and look at what ultimately what we're looking at is how our soul journey and how to evolve our issues, because we all have dispositions, or we don't understand things about ourselves. And the moon, the astrology will help us to evolve through being able to have a conversation about the symbols on the chart. There was something else I wanted to share, but I think it was on a bit of paper and I don't know. Okay, so let's think about this moon. If we think as well, the nurturing side, if we can go for this in our lives in general, this is worth covering. This is actually from Pete Walker's book, Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving, which I've done a lot of work on, making myself trauma informed so that I understand, and also as I healed my own traumas or integrated them. I won't say healed them, because we can get triggered. Something triggered me for about 10 minutes earlier. The more I've done my inner work, I've been able to, notice a trigger and then deal with them very quickly and not spiral with them. That's the beauty of the Pete Walker work, the Pete Walker Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving. So if we look at this moon, and we go back to I want to go back to the new share and go back to the emanated page. We can see the moon is here in the sign of, this is the 11th of July. So we're going to go back one day here. And we can see this new moon. And so it's in the sign of Cancer. So if we can go for healing, which is self-acceptance and a clear sense of identity, self-compassion, self-protection, capacity to draw comfort from relationships, the ability to relax, a capacity for full self-expression. And we can look at our willpower and our motivation as well, maybe, and peace of mind, self-care, big one, and a belief that life is a gift, self-esteem and self-confidence. So whatever's going on right now, tap into what am I grateful for? Because I noticed we can get so stuck in, oh my God, what's going to happen? Am I going to be able to travel? Am I going to be able to do this? All of these things we've got to consider at this time. But, we go with the flow. Things are changing all of the time, and we're becoming more conscious of what's going on so we can look after each other and the ones we love. Okay, catch you later. And any comments, leave them below the video. Catch you later.